When would somebody be restricted from filing for bankruptcy? So you find yourself in this predicament where bankruptcy might be in the cards for you. In this video, I'm going to talk about who's actually restricted from filing bankruptcy. Today, I'm going to tell you some things that you absolutely should not do if you plan on filing bankruptcy. I'm also going to lay out restrictions that you need to consider, and then we'll discuss why some people are not able to file bankruptcy. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so you've made the very difficult decision to file bankruptcy. Now, this is no joke. Many clients come my way, and they're in the throes of financial issues. Given the nature of what's going on with their credit, there really isn't a solution for them. Using credit restoration services isn't going to serve them well. They're really going to have to make other decisions. And the reason that the credit restoration services aren't going to serve them well is because they have more money that's going out each month than's coming in. In other words, they're upside down on debt. And they're going to have to find out a better way to deal with their situation. Okay, the number one thing that you should not do is try to file bankruptcy on your own. I've seen a ton of people that have multiple bankruptcy listings on their credit profile, and a lot of them, the bankruptcy was never discharged. In other words, the bankruptcy never went through the courts, they just started it. Do you know that if you file paperwork on a bankruptcy, whether you complete that process or not, you've already done massive amounts of damage to your credit profile? I've seen where people have started on their own trying to file their own bankruptcy 1, 2, 3 times, and it lists 3 different times on their credit report. Can you imagine the amount of trauma that's going to cause that client? It makes more sense just to get a professional involved. Pay for the bankruptcy. They usually have some kind of payment schedule that allows you to pay over time, but it makes way more sense to do that than potentially botch your own bankruptcy. Another thing you should never do is try to transfer assets to friends or family. Okay, so this is what's known as fraud, right? If you're gonna file bankruptcy, you can't hide your assets. In other words, you can't put everything that you own in somebody else's name or take all the cash out of your bank account and gift it to somebody else. That kind of thing doesn't work. In fact, if you tried to go through with a bankruptcy in those types of circumstances, depending on the situation, it might land you a case. So be careful not to do anything that's shady like that. Another thing that you should never do is don't go on a shopping spree before you file bankruptcy. I know the temptation is real. If you still have room on your credit cards, it may be tempting if you know you're gonna file bankruptcy to go crazy and go max those credit cards out. Just know that those creditors can actually challenge your bankruptcy. In other words, if you spend $10,000 on a credit card and then go file bankruptcy, those creditors are gonna have something to say about that. Typically, any purchase made 90 days prior to filing a bankruptcy isn't gonna be included in your bankruptcy, and you can still owe on this. Another thing is don't try to conceal assets. In other words, don't try to hide things, don't be shady, don't do anything that's not above board. These types of things will be figured out by the bankruptcy courts, by the authorities. You will get in trouble for it. And you will ultimately pay the price for that. So the rule of thumb for a bankruptcy is to actually have a need to file the bankruptcy, and then everything is above board from then on. Another thing that you should never do if you know you're going to go into a bankruptcy is cash out your retirement accounts, your 401k, your IRAs. Those are all protected assets. There's never a good reason to know that your financial ship is going down and then cash out all of your retirement to try to save that situation and then have to file bankruptcy anyways. Just know that it doesn't matter how much money you have in your IRA or your 401k, the bankruptcy courts are not gonna touch that. That's always protected. So now, once your bankruptcy is filed and is active, there are a couple things that you should not do. One of them is gonna be to accept gifts. Don't accept considerable amounts of money from family and friends. If you're having financial issues, there may be a need to try to borrow money or for family to surround you and give you a bunch of money. In the middle of a bankruptcy, you're gonna wanna consult with your attorney to make sure that that's not gonna land you in hot water. Another thing that you don't wanna do is you don't wanna make large purchases. It goes without saying that making a purchase of a luxury vehicle in the middle of a bankruptcy doesn't make any sense, right? So you want to be practical and frugal in your purchases. There should be no big decisions that are being made while your bankruptcy is active. If you need to make a big purchase and you feel like that it'll be looked down upon by the bankruptcy courts, you want to talk to your attorney about making that purchase first. Everything should be bounced off of them. Now, before we get into what people can actually be denied for a bankruptcy, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be working hard to bring you a video every weekday over credit, lending, real estate, and other relevant personal finance topics. So yes, certain people can be denied from filing bankruptcy. Remember, there's lots of different chapters of bankruptcies, but the two main ones that people file in most cases are going to be Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. So your Chapter 7 bankruptcies are going to be full liquidation of all assets. This is where they run a means test, and then if you qualify for this type of bankruptcy, then all of your debts are literally discharged. Your Chapter 13 bankruptcy is going to be a debt reorganization plan, where they typically put you on a 5-year plan to pay out creditors based on your disposable income. So let's start with the Chapter 7 and what might exclude you from filing another Chapter 7. You'll usually not qualify for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy if you've already filed a Chapter 7 bankruptcy within the past 8 years. Another reason why people don't qualify to file a Chapter 7, which remembers the full discharge of all debt, is if they don't pass the means test. Essentially, they make too much money. So remember, every state has their own provisions for bankruptcy and their own rules. You're going to want to make sure that you stay close to your attorney with your specific state and the rules within your state. Okay, now as far as the Chapter 13, there are some things that might disqualify you from filing a Chapter 13. One of the main ones is that, remember, the Chapter 13 is going to be a reorganization of debt. And what that means is that you're going to have to pay a portion of your regular income to your creditors that the bankruptcy courts determine is necessary. So if you don't have a steady income, Chapter 13 is not going to be an option for you. Chapter 13 might not be an option for you if you have debts that exceed certain limits. The debt limits for this type of bankruptcy is $1.2 million for secured debt and roughly $400,000 for unsecured debt. Another reason why you might be disqualified is if you filed Chapter 13 in the last 2 years.